Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to Energy Gal Meditations. I'm Lisa, and we're talking today about, or I'm just going to do a full disclosure. I wrote near-death experience in the caption, but it was more of a profound, but I didn't die experience. You know, with some people, they have a near-death experience. They really did die, and then they come back, and they have a story to tell. I'll be honest with you. I didn't really die, for heaven's sakes, but it sure felt like this. And it was such a profound experience that I was up most of the night thinking, what am I going to share today? And this just kept coming back. And I'm not one that makes a lot of hoopla and a big deal out of things. I'm not overly theatrical or what have you, but I just feel like this is the message that's supposed to come forth today. So I'm going to be as quick as I can unpacking the story. I want to share with you just a little book that I've been reading, a little passage from the book that kind of seals it. And I hope that what I have to offer you today is encouraging and helps you ponder this whole incredible experience we're having as God consciousness awakening to itself in a body, in a human body. It's just fascinating to me. So here's the deal. I like to run, and so I was on my way to a race down in North Carolina, and I live up in New York. Well, we happened to have a really bad ice storm on the day that I decided I was going to travel down to North Carolina to visit with my friend. So I drove, and I only got maybe about 11 miles away from home, and that itself took me like 45 minutes. It was bad. Well, I'm still on two-way before I hopped on the thruway, and I noticed coming towards me a very large semi and then 4 cars behind it, and I thought, I'm going to give them a little bit of room, so I scooted on over to the right side of the road where I was, just a couple of inches, a foot, to be able to give them a little bit more room. As I did that, I could feel my car lose any kind of traction. And this all happened, what I'm explaining to happened within like 5 seconds of each other. 5 seconds. All this was 5 seconds, and yet it felt like a lifetime. I ended up skidding, and as I did, I took my hands off the wheel and my feet off of either of the pedals. And I started screaming, God help me, over and over again. God help me, God help me. And I ended up looking out of my passenger window, and I could see the semi coming towards me. So my car had shifted, and I was in the semi's lane. And in that moment, I thought, so this is how it ends for me. Dramatic, for heaven's sakes. This is how it ends. But what made me, and I could feel my heart like squeezing and screaming out to God, and Jesus is my main squeeze. So I thought I'd be like, well, Jesus, take the wheel. None of that happened. It was this God force. It was like I was zeroed in on the very nub of the tip of consciousness, the very thought before the thought that had the thought before the thought, all the way back to the very beginning. It was like I'd zeroed in on that in that extreme, profound moment, saying, God, and that's the word I used, God, help me, help me. And my thought in that moment was, I don't want to die because I have 5 children, and I don't want them to hear from my husband, their dad, Mom is gone. She died in a car accident today. I didn't want that to be part of their legacy. Like, that broke my heart. I thought, I can't leave it like this for them. I don't want this to be part of their experience. It was deep. It was like in my entire cell, I felt, I don't want my children to experience this pain. I know I buried my mom when I was in my 20s, and that was so hard. And I've been largely estranged from my dad my whole life. So not having my parents around was so traumatic for me that I didn't want that for my children. So in that split second, I thought, this is the way it's going to be. I don't want it to be this way. I was heartbroken. I could feel, and this is like seconds, I could feel the back end of me get pulled around, and I went back into the lane, and I mean that semi whoosh, went right by me, and in the moment I thought, did I get hit? Am I hit? Did I just die? I mean, it was, and so I'm fishtailing really bad in my own lane, at least. These other 4 cars are going by me. At that point, I gently hold on to the wheel, and I've got my feet hovering above the brake and the gas, and I start screaming, I don't know what I'm doing. God help me, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. Because my mind started to work at that point. Do you steer into the spin or out? I couldn't remember what my husband told me all those years ago. So anyway, it's cold in my studio. That's why I've got my coat on and I'm a little bit cold, but I just wanted to get this out and I didn't want to spend time warming up the place. So thanks for understanding and hearing through it. But so I thought it isn't over yet. I'm still fishtailing and all these 4 cars are coming. Well, finally the 4 cars went by. And when I say finally, I mean like it felt like it was forever. And at the same time, it felt like it was a split second and it was like that just happened. So, and some of it I'm shaking because whenever I describe it, it still causes me to shake a little bit. So I finally just decide, okay, I'm just going to let, it was like loosely and I could feel the wheel. And then finally it calmed down and I just loosely grabbed a hold and I let myself kind of coast until it was going really, really slow. There were no other cars around. And I thought at that point, the worst that's going to happen is I'm going to hit a mailbox and I can handle that. So I knew the worst of it was over. And in that very moment, I thought, I know that my body just had a major adrenaline rush. And the best thing for me to do is allow my body to have experienced this fully all the way through to the end. The chemicals that just got expended and my sight, I just kept on seeing that semi coming towards me. And it was like, I could not stop replaying that over and over again. Well, there was not a mile down the road, there was a gas station. So I pulled into the gas station and I knew I just have to sit here for a while. So I couldn't even dial my husband at that point. I was shaking too badly. So I just kept on breathing. I kept on bringing my awareness to the breath because I kept on going back to what happened. And I was like, no, you can think about it, but you're right here, right now. You're safe and everything is fine. And I just kept on saying to myself, you're okay. You made it. You're okay. You made it. But oh my God, my body was shaking so bad. And there were tears coming down my eyes, even though I wasn't really crying, but there was like this constant tears. That happened at like 8 o'clock in the morning. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon before all that stopped. I would have like waves of tears and waves of my body shaking so bad. And I'd have to pull across in a rest stop. So anyway, I ended up calling my husband. And because I was only at that point, like maybe 13 miles away from home, 14 miles away from home, he said, turn around and come home. Just turn around and come home. And I said, babe, I feel like I need to keep going for 2 reasons. I don't want to drive back in that again. And secondly, I made a promise to myself to go. And I feel like I can keep going still. I'm going to go really slow, because I'm scared to go fast, but I'm going to hop on the throughway right here. It was like right across from the garage or the gas station I was in. And I said, then it'll be one-way traffic and I'll feel safer. So he was like, oh, okay, contact me, every half hour, let me know how you're doing. So anyway, long story short of it is I end up getting on the throughway, and about every hour I would check in with him for the first little bit of time. And like I said, it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I stopped shaking as much and I just let myself be in that space. I think I listened gently to some music, but I know I didn't listen to any podcasts. Mostly I think I just had it be silent. And I allowed myself to feel everything I was feeling. I mean, even when I think about it now, the profound feeling I have of not wanting my children to experience the kind of pain and agony that they would experience to have to, we're really close, my children and I and my husband, and we're all just a bunch of introverts, and we're all each other's friends. And I didn't want to leave them that way. It was the cry of my heart. I don't want to leave them. It wasn't like I didn't ponder, I wish I would do this. Oh, I wish I would lose those 10 pounds I've been trying to lose. Oh, I wish I would finally get a sub whatever on a marathon. Or whatever. It was about my kids. It was about relationships. It was about who I was leaving behind in that way. So anyway, that was pretty profound for me. And I reached out to a friend of mine, and he said, I think that was pretty ballsy of you to continue on, to say, just because that happened doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I'm moving forward through this. And he said it's very metaphorical of how you've experienced life, because he happens to know my story, and I've experienced some pretty traumatic things, and yet I continue to move forward in and through them, and of course glean all of the amazing stuff that there is to glean, because every experience has something to share with us if we allow it. Even the shittiest, crappiest things, if we allow ourselves to fully process or be on the journey of processing everything that happened, it will show us, it will reveal to us the message in it. Nothing is wasted. Nothing. Why would the universe do that? That doesn't sound right to me. So anyway, there was that. As an aside, on the way home, I had the opportunity to go past that particular exit and go home a different way. And I chose to go home that same way, fill up at that gas station. And then I took that same road back home because I didn't want it to be something, I needed closure. And I didn't want it to be something like, oh, I'm afraid of that stretch of the road. I didn't want to have something over me. I wanted to come back fully into my power. And as I went over and through that one particular stretch of where the event happened, I could feel myself starting to have a hot flash. And I was like, of course, that was profound what I went through. It was a really big deal. So of course I'm gonna feel something into my body about that. My body experienced it, not just my mind, not just my heart, but my physical body too. And that's why I do things like guided meditations that pull us down back into our body, that help us become aware of the breath, and sound baths that help us come back down fully into the bodies. Because I think for so many of us, we live on autopilot. And especially when something traumatic has happened to us, we leave the body. When it's too much for us to process, we literally just, disconnect. But to be able to proceed in life, we have to fully reconnect into our bodies, into that area that we disconnected from, so that we could proceed. We're stuck there, whether we realize it or not. And so going back and reconnecting, you don't have to go through the experience again. You don't have to. What hurt on the way in doesn't have to hurt on the way out. But you do have to reconnect to that particular area of your life that you disconnected from, that part of your body that kind of went numb. So one thing that's been kind of speaking to me lately in life is that there are a lot of people out there saying that they know exactly what's going on. And I know that myself, there have been times I've said, well, I know what this whole thing is about. We're expanding the isness and the I amness of God. Just by us having an experience, we are God itself awakening to itself through each of us. And I believe that that's true. But what I want to humbly say to you is, I don't know why. I don't know why we're doing this. I don't know the exact details of everything. And if I'm being honest, I think it's beyond whatever I could know anyway. It's kind of the conclusion that I've come to. That there is mystery, and that there's a reverence that we can hold towards that mystery. This life that we're experiencing, it defies logic. It defies understanding. It defies figuring it all out. It defies knowing it all. It defies getting to the very tip of the root and saying, oh, I got it. I've arrived at there. It defies that. It's so much bigger than all of that. It's so much more mysterious and majestic and spectacular and wonderful than anything we could wrap our heads around. And so that's been my conclusion lately. What happened to me was so profound. And this life that I've experienced, it's been so profound for me and changed me so deeply that all I can do is sit there and be in awe of it, whatever that is, that it. And in some ways, I want to back away from trying to, it's like words don't even do what it is I'm trying to express justice. It's like I would play an instrument and that would better express to you how grateful I am for this experience of being a human being. Even in the shit of it all. Like there's some areas of my life that I'm like, that just sucks. But I love that it just sucks. I still love that. It's all just so freaking amazing and wonderful. Even the shit part of it. And I can't explain that. I feel like I've arrived at this place that's like, I'm in a realm of absolute mystery that defies logic and words. Wow. So I'll end with a little passage of a book that I'm reading by Paulo Cuehlo. He wrote The Alchemist. This particular book that found me is called BRIDA, or BRIDA, and I haven't finished it yet, full disclosure. But there's a passage that I read late last night, and it really speaks to me of kind of what I feel the culmination of the journey that I've been on and where I'm at this point. Because, day after tomorrow, that could change also. My husband's like, you just keep evolving and you just keep, and I'm like, yeah, that's my journey. That's what I'm doing. Wow. So these two people are sitting down with each other. Oh my God, I am so cold. It's like 14 degrees outside. Wicca, who is BRIDA's teacher. And BRIDA wants to know, like, the mystery. She has all these questions, and she wants to know the answers. So she's developed a relationship and an adoration for this woman named Wicca. And she really adores Wicca and believes that Wicca is very evolved. And so this is their conversation. They're in a, Wicca and BRIDA are in a restaurant. Wicca says this: "May God bless our food. We are all sailors on an unknown sea. May he make us brave enough to accept this mystery." And BRIDA responds, "But you're a teacher of the tradition of the moon. You know the answers." Wicca sat for a moment, absorbed, looking at the food. And then she said, "I know how to travel between the present and the past. I know the world of the spirits. And I've communed with forces so amazing that no words in any language could describe them. I could perhaps say that I possess the silent knowledge of the journey that has brought the human race to where it is at this very moment. But because I know all of this, and because I am a teacher, I also know that we will never, ever know the ultimate reason for our existence. We might know how, we might know where, and we might know when of being here. But the why? The why will always be a question that remains unanswered. The main objective of the great architect of the universe is known only to him or it alone, and to no one else. A silence fell. Right now, while we're here eating, 99% of the people on this planet are, in their own way, struggling with that very question. Why are we here? Many think they've found the answer in religion or in materialism. Others despair and spend their lives and their money trying to grasp the meaning of it all. A few let the question go unanswered and live for the moment, regardless of the results or the consequences. Only the brave and only those who understand the traditions of the sun and the moon are aware that the only possible answer to the question of why is, I don't know. This might at first seem frightening, leaving us terribly vulnerable in our dealings with the world, with the things of the world, and with our sense of our existence. Once we've got over that initial fear, however, we gradually become accustomed to the only possible solution: to follow our dreams. Having the courage to take the steps we always wanted to take is the only way of showing that we trust in God. As soon as we accept this, life takes on a sacred meaning. And we experience the same emotion the Virgin must have felt when, one afternoon in her otherwise very ordinary existence, a stranger appeared to her and made her an offer. "Be it unto me according to thy word," said the Virgin, because she had understood that the greatest thing a human being can do, the greatest thing a human being can do is to accept the mystery. After another long silence, Wicca again took up her knife and fork and resumed her meal. Breda looked at her, proud to be by her side. She wasn't bothered now by the questions she had, that she would never ask. How does Wicca earn her money? Is she in love with someone or jealous of someone else? She thought about the greatness of soul of the true sages who had spent their entire life searching for an answer that did not exist, but who were not tempted to invent an answer when they realized there wasn't one. Instead, they carried on humbly, inhabiting a universe they would never understand. The only way they could truly participate was by following their own desires, their own dreams, because this is how a soul becomes an instrument of God. So then what's the point of looking for an answer then? We don't look for an answer. We accept. And then life becomes much more intense, much more brilliant, because we understand that each minute, each step that we take has a meaning that goes far beyond us as individuals. We realize that somewhere in time and space, this question does have an answer. We realize that there is a reason for us being here and for us. That is enough. We plunge into the dark night with faith. We fulfill what the ancient alchemists used to call our personal legend. And we surrender ourselves fully to each moment, knowing that there is always a hand guiding us. And whether we accept that hand or not, well, that is entirely up to us.